Yeah, so I mean, I brought you guys on here because I like what you're doing, and I think you have a pretty interesting story. Um, and it's a story that I think people just kind of need to hear. So, I mean, if you want to just have at it, you can just tell us a little bit about kind of your journey so far and your journey with ayahuasca, and whatever else you want to tell
Yeah,
the world.
I was thinking I would start talking about like circa November 2019 and
Okay.
just go from there. And then after I kind of get into it, Ryan might have some things to say. We can get into a little more backstory. But so around like November, like early November of 2019. Um, so at this point, I had been into heroin addiction uh, for about 10 years and methadone addiction, daily addiction for 7 years. Um, I say addiction, even though I was prescribed it from the doctors. It's still I still believe it to be an addiction of some sort. And um, yeah, so 10 years going on heroin addiction. I just turned, I was just about to turn 28, and um, so my brother comes up to me and he's telling me about ayahuasca and just some of the studies coming out about psychedelics and how they can help with addiction and different mental illnesses and stuff, and I was pretty against it, because I had done psychedelics in the past, and I knew that there was I knew that psychedelics were extremely powerful and had the potential to be extremely powerful, but I was scared of it for that reason, and I wasn't really sure what to expect either. I hadn't done psychedelics since 17 or 18 years old.
Hmm.
Um, Even at that point, I didn't really know what they were or what to expect from them. And so, yeah, about 2 weeks before this experience, I remember I was on a walk with a good friend of mine who asked me if I would ever, if she asked me if I thought I'd ever get clean from heroin or methadone. And I think I said, like, yeah, I hope so. But I think, like, the deep down, I really don't think I had, I mean, honestly, I really didn't think I was going to. And
Hmm.
it's weird that that question was just posed to me 2 weeks before the ayahuasca, because people didn't really ask me that a whole lot throughout my active using. But anyway, so like end of November, the last week in November, Ryan, I'm finally like, all right, I'm willing to take the ayahuasca. I wasn't even like I just was willing to. Ryan was like, this is the day you should do it, because we kind of planned it. And even that morning, I was really fighting it, but eventually I took it, and you know had this experience, and overnight I stopped using the heroin. Um,
Yeah, that's nuts.
yeah, crazy, because I mean, I've said this before on our podcast and other places, but I used every single day for 6 months plus, like every single day for 6 months plus. And I had this experience. I just stopped using. But at that point, I was still on a high dose of methadone. And so over the following probably about 3.5 months after the ayahuasca, I went from a really high dose of methadone, 120 milligrams, down to about 1 milligram. And then I relapsed. I relapsed when I got down to 1 milligram, because the withdrawal was really intense. Um, I relapsed. I overdosed twice within about almost 3 weeks. Came extremely close to death both times. Had to be revived with Narcan, and um, luckily the second time I was revived overdose. I woke up and I had my family around me, and I made the decision that I needed to go to rehab and get off methadone. And 2 to 3 days later, I was in rehab. The following day, refused my methadone, and I have not taken my methadone since that day. And it's now been about closer to 11 months now since that day, which is the
Wow.
longest time that I've ever been clean in my entire adult life by
Hmm.
far.
That's nuts,
Um,
man.
so that's just like the straight facts of it. Like, we can get into like other stuff, but I mean, that's just like That's just the truth, like of the facts of it.
So what did ayahuasca show you that made you want to switch up just so quick? Did you still have the craving for ayahuasca, and did you just not listen to the craving, or was it just totally not in your mind at all?
The craving for the heroin.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's weird. I don't really have words for what happened. It was I can say it was. I don't really have never really understood what a mystical experience was, but if
I think we lost you, man.
not
Hello?
much. Hey, can you hear me?
I just missed all that.
All right,
We
let's go
left off
back.
at mystical experience.
Right. So what I was saying was I don't. I'm not sure I really ever knew what a mystical experience really was. But if I had to put into words what the ayahuasca experience was for me, I'd say it was a mystical experience. If I ever knew an mystical experience, I mean, there were things about myself. I mean, I guess I should going into it. I had one intention, or maybe three intentions, but they all surrounded around the one of like looking at my life. What have the drugs done to me? Done to the people around me? You know, why am I doing it? I don't know. It was just like going into it, like to really examine myself and what the drugs have done for me and what they mean to me.
Mm,
There was like three things I wrote down beforehand. One of which was, show me the love that has kind of left me that I used to have, when I was younger.
hmm
And a couple other just like heartfelt, like one-liners that I
Did
read.
it show you that kind of love?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it did 100%. It got me in touch with the youthful um, love, outpouring of love, and youthful.
Like a
Just
back to your
made,
childhood in a way?
yeah. I mean, it really made me feel like, and I've said this to Ryan and some other people before, but it really made me feel like I was a kid again. Like I had the optimism um, and I feel like I had the potential that I used to feel when I was a kid.
Hmm That's powerful, man.
It was extremely powerful. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think part of the story as well is like what I did, what do we do now, and like what have I done since then that's really continued to help make the change. Because one experience extremely like influential in my life, but like how it's really hard to take that fast forward a year, 5 years. I mean, yes, it's still powerful. Actually, I'd say the more that time goes on, the more powerful that experience was.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so anyway, so like when I overdosed, we had to find another way to kind of tap back into, I guess, like, I mean, you should probably talk about it too, but like kind of we wanted to find a way to like tap back into that psychedelic experience without taking a psychedelic again.
Yeah, I
hmm
mean,
Because I experienced it. I don't need to take a psychedelic
hmm
to kind of tap back into it, kind of feel it and explore it.
Yeah.
Um, as long as I'm willing and able to go deep into it. And so that's what our plan was. Like Ryan was like, we knew the power of the experience, but
So do you
yeah, I
think
mean,
it's like
it
something
was
you
really
can
about
tap
how do
into
we
at
take
will?
that experience.
Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, it is. It is 100%. I can tap into it at will because I do constantly, all the time.
Mm.
Whenever I'm having doubts of anything, I'm tapping into it. Um, I
Well,
mean,
how could you
it's
describe that? Is it like this unspeakable force that you can kind of just gives you some kind of like intuition in a way?
yeah. I mean, it definitely intuition. There's um, yeah. I mean, like mystical experience. What does that mean? It means that there's something beyond myself that I tapped into or something, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean, when I'm down, when I think, why am I doing anything? It's not helping, whatever, any doubtful, just like any time throughout the day, throughout the week, any time that I'm feeling really down, I think back to that moment, and it's like just a revitalization of like, this is why I'm doing this. It makes so much
Mm.
sense. It really does. And so like,
So it sent you a message in a way.
yeah, I'd say it definitely sent me a message. I mean, I don't think it was any messages that I hadn't known previously, but like we were talking about, how it kind of puts you in that childlike state. It kind of just kind of
Mm.
revitalizes messages that have kind of been lost over time.
Mm.
I mean, Ryan had a psychedelic experience about 3 years ago or so, and so he knew, and he was doing a lot of research on the studies of it and whatnot. So he like knew that there was power in it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, my question was, how do you take a psychedelic experience like that and make it useful for the rest of your life? Because I had at 23, I was depressed, and was pushed to psychedelics out of desperation, and I had a psilocybin experience at 23, first time with a psychedelic, and my life started to change drastically within literally the next day. I started changing habits in my life, and I thought it was all better. But then, like 3 months, 4 months down the road, my habits started to fall off, and it felt like that experience had been lost. Like the energy or momentum or motivation from it was no longer keeping me going. And so I relapsed into patterns of destructive patterns and ended up getting more depressed than ever. But there was still a little hope, because the hope was I knew these things were powerful. It's just I don't know how to use them. And
Mm.
even like researching like Johns Hopkins and other studies, and even ancient tribes, like, and how they use them, there wasn't like a clear cut, this is how you do it. And that's because I think psychedelics don't have that. They
Yeah.
are inherently, unique to the individual and subjective. So the way they're used are probably going to follow that too and be very subjective. And the integration too. I mean, we created a integration type practice that has been really helpful for us, and it allows us to go back into those meaningful experiences of our past, not only psychedelic experience but also childhood events and traumatic experiences, revisit those things emotionally and feel them and process what was going on, and from there we can start to uh, let it go and be able to be more present in the moment. And that's really the goal, is for us, is to accept the present moment and be present as much as possible, because that's where life happens.
Mm. So you guys have developed a practice that allows you to kind of go internally and confront some things that you may not be able to, without whatever this practice is.
yeah, I mean, I'll speak for myself. It's 100% up there with the psychedelic experience in the amount of positive, things that I've gained from it. Like, it's helped me just as much. But I think it's like a two-part thing. Like, I don't think I would be able to do it without the ayahuasca, and I don't think I don't think it would be as meaningful without the ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we probably wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the ayahuasca. I mean, like, I had the ayahuasca experience. It was, really hard to process, but I knew it was meaningful. I knew I was gaining insight from it. But like, how we were deciding, we were trying to figure out like, okay, but how do we prolong that? So
Mm-hmm.
what we found was, and I don't know, we're not like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Terrence McKenna, but
He's the man.
yeah, right on. So like, we saw this video. He talks about cannabis. He says it. And I don't think it's a very popular talk of his, but he says, if you were to optimally use cannabis, he says it would be once a week in silent darkness with the best cannabis you can, and
Mm-hmm.
just load yourself with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people do that. So Ryan and I were like, well, let's try something like that. I mean, originally we wanted to
we altered it a little bit, but I mean, we do it out in woods and with each other, and we add some other things in, like breathing techniques, silence, eye gazing, and it all kind of holistically comes together to be this really meaningful ritual that we do. And every week that we do it, we've been doing it for like 9-10 months now. When we first started, there was nothing real special about it. It was just very simple, going out in the woods, sitting around in a circle, smoking and sitting in silence. But now it's developed into very ritualized and structured practice that every week it can kind of bring us back to what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing, the meaning behind it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely taps into past psychedelic, past traumatic, past big experience, like big events in our life. But even more than that, it seems to give me what I need every week, in the sense that, like Ryan was just saying, it kind of just grounds us and puts us right back where we want to be, because
yeah, and it gives us a chance to evaluate our decisions over the past week. Like, it's not about like being the best person we can be until we eventually die. It's just, I want to be the best person I can be this week or this day, and then
like
reevaluate next Sunday.
Like I wanted to say, like, yeah, I've stopped using opiates, since the ayahuasca. But even after the ayahuasca, I was still smoking nicotine habitually, with a jewel, and then eventually cigarettes. And I was drinking a lot, Friday, Saturday nights, I was going out and seeing women. And that was something that was almost, those were my new vices, really. But since doing this integration thing, I was doing it for a while. The beautiful thing about the Sunday integration is, like, I would go through these nights where I would be drinking, smoking cigarettes, and hooking up with these girls. The next morning, I would be there in that Sunday ritual. There was no escaping what I had just done the day. It wasn't like a few days later and I can forget about it. It's like I'm right there, and it wasn't like anybody was telling me to confront it. It's just I knew I was there to confront that, and to feel the disgust that I ultimately felt from it. Like, that's not a lifestyle I want to do, is like drinking, hooking up with women, and smoking cigarettes, and just that lifestyle. Like, that's just not what I want out of life. But it's really hard to see that in the moment, So anyway, so I guess my point is, since in the past like 3 months, we've been doing this integration for about 9, almost 10 months. And my point is, in the past like 3 months, I've been able to cut out nicotine pretty much like entirely. Drinking here and there, but not nearly as much as I was. Like, maybe once a month, maybe twice a month.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and and I'm not like going out looking to hook up with women, because I don't know. I just have more like self ability to not do that, just to be okay with like sitting there and just living and just getting through the day without thinking about what can I do to distract myself, I guess. So like,
just being with yourself more.
Yeah. So I'd say like those are some of the major benefits that I've gotten from just holding the space and time each week where we do that, we do the ritual.
Can you guys go over what you do?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It's not a secret. It's just, we ultimately, I think we'd both like to see, other people do this, but we can't, whatever we do, like Ryan said, this, like, whatever we do, we can't expect other people to do exactly what we do and get the same benefits, because it's different,
It's you guys' direct experience.
Yeah. And like the things that we do, it's not meaningful because of like certain aspects of whatever. It's meaningful because of it's just a decision that we decided to do, and over time it's gained more meaning and more meaning. But there are certain things that we advocate for that are really helpful for getting into like a ritualized altered state and connecting with people on a deeper level. And I mean, we use cannabis because that provides an altered state that is actually helps us confront a lot of fear and anxiety. Like, people say cannabis gives them paranoia. That's kind of, in a way, like, we're not trying to make ourselves paranoid, but we encourage feelings. So we encourage to feel the fear and also gratitude and love. And cannabis can help lower the barriers that we've developed to that. And so we also do extended periods of silence and meditation, or focusing on our breath. After we smoke the cannabis, we sit around a fire. We
do eye gazing.
Yeah, we eye gaze for. There's 4 people in the
That's
group.
intense.
So yeah,
Getting really high and just staring into each other's eyes.
Yeah. It sounds like you can appreciate that. I think most people can, but to some people, I'm sure it sounds like that's kind of stupid.
I can see how it can be a powerful thing.
Yeah. And so it helps us.
Yeah. The other thing about it is we don't smoke outside of that setting. So it's not like we're getting high all the time. We go there, we get high again. It's like we have kind of pledged to each other that that Sunday morning is the only time we're going to smoke. So you can imagine smoking once a week in that setting. You're going to get pretty fucking pretty.
Yeah. And that's something that I kind of understood about ancient tribes too. Like down in South America, ayahuasca tribes, it's not like they're doing ayahuasca outside the ritual setting. That's sacrilege, you know. You keep the sacred substance in the ritual. And so that's why, I mean, I used to smoke cannabis in a very destructive way, or pretty destructive, smoking every day whenever I had free time, and that's just how I'd waste my time. And I didn't really think, after my first psilocybin experience, I didn't really think that cannabis could be used in a positive way like psilocybin. But over time, I realized virtually any substance can be used in a constructive way if you have the right setting behind it. And cannabis has been able to provide that for us, especially only using it once a week. And also the other things that go into it, like we hiking up into nature for 5 minutes, sitting in silence, breathing. We incorporate some different breathing techniques, some more like Wim Hof, others more like just slow, intentional breathing. And then we'll eye gaze for, I don't know, 5 minutes each maybe, or sometimes it goes a lot longer, sometimes no. And then we'll close by talking about what came up, you know, what we were feeling in it. And
yeah, I wanted to say, in a way,
pretty cool.
In a way, it's kind of similar to like, I mean, I don't want to make comparison, but I do, because there are similarities, but there's also a lot of differences between this and like an AA meeting, for example. I guess I don't know how keen you are on AA or what you know about it, but I do want to say that. Okay, well, you know,
I mean, there's pretty much a couple main tenets. It's community, that connected, you're more capable of handling your struggle than disconnected, and vulnerability and sharing your story leads to deeper connection. And those are 2 things that we agree with, and we and I don't think we got them from AA. It's just we see the value in them. So
yeah, they're good tenets.
Yeah.
One thing that I really admire about AA is they call it a fellowship, and there's so much power in that. I mean, there's so much power in everybody striving for the same goal. That's what we have in this setting. We're all striving to be better people. We're all striving to overcome our vices. We're all striving to just have our influence, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we all have equal say in how this thing develops. Like, if you go to AA, you have to follow these certain rules. Like, pretty much they say it's abstinence only, like no substances, except for obviously caffeine and nicotine. But besides that, everything else is off limits. And if you do those things, you have to say, you know, oh, I relapse. And like, there's stuff in that doesn't promote growth. I think it promotes shame and guilt, and it perpetuates the cycle. So like in our group, you can come up and say, oh, I had a bender this weekend and I did a bunch of drugs, and it's like, you'll be accepted. It will be disappointed because we want to see you do well, but it's not like, oh, you've messed up, you have to do something. No, it's, you're accepted. And that's one thing I learned with Rory, is that like our whole life, while he was struggling with his addiction, it always seemed like, you know, you have to get better in order for us to really like accept you fully. Like once you deal with this, then you'll be accepted into the family again. Right now, you're kind of the black sheep, and all of our problems are because of you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, from an addict's point of view, that will never ever help. it only
Mhm.
made things worse
And too much
because
pressure.
yeah, it's like exactly. It's like too much pressure. It's like an overwhelming amount of pressure. I'll tell you that. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, what's the point? Why do I have to get better for you guys if you're not gonna kind of accept someone where they're at? And
Mm.
I think there's a big message in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between loving unconditionally and loving with contingencies. Like,
Mm.
I'll love you when you overcome this addiction, and that's never
Yeah.
how it was. Like, we always loved Rory, but there was always this, like, we had to hold back a little bit, because if you know someone who's an addict, there's a good chance that they'll die. So it's like you can't put all your love into that. There's this fear of, oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
he's gonna let me down.
which I want to say is like, I don't blame. There's no part of me blamed any of them for not for or hypothetically, I would never blame someone for not accepting me when I'm a drug addict, because how could I expect someone to? There's too much invested. There's too much emotion. There's too much everything on the line. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying like, oh, they should or shouldn't. I'm just saying, from my point of view, I know what it feels like to not be accepted, and that is, it just doesn't help. And so
Mm.
like, part of our story, part of, what we're going through is, Ryan, I think, was going to say, and I don't know if he did say, but basically, once he accepted me and told me it's okay if you're an addict, it's okay if you use drugs, it doesn't matter, we're still going to be here for you. Not only saying that, but showing me through, I guess, through this this integration practice. Because when we started this integration practice, I was still using, because I had just relapsed. So I did the ayahuasca a few back in November. This is now like April. I relapsed because I had come down off of methadone so much, down to such a low 1 milligram, literally like 120 milligrams down to 1 milligram in a very short amount of time. And I overdosed because I was super just out of, I don't know. I was scared, I guess. But in this in the second
Ritual.
second ritual, it was the next day I overdosed, and then I went to rehab, and I've come back, and yeah, I mean, I don't want to make it seem like this ritual makes everything else like easy. I mean, I'm still living life. I'm still going through life just as everyone else is. It's still really
Mhm.
friggin' difficult, but it's very reassuring. It's like the most reassuring thing I've ever had, is knowing that I'm going to get back there on Sunday and be there with Ryan and Tom and, the people that we're there with. It's 4 people right now, and I don't know. I don't have any desire to use heroin. I haven't had any cravings really. I really don't see a purpose for it anymore. If there's, it's, if there's anything that I need, I can get it from people. I don't need it from heroin anymore, because
Wow.
people have shown me, the people that love me have shown me, yes, we are there for you, and yes, we do feel what you're feeling. We feel everything, and that's like the most powerful, empowering thing for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. It just starts with the acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's pretty powerful, man.
Yeah.
So this ritual is, I mean, it's unique to you guys, but I think it's important for everybody to have a certain kind of ritual in their life,
Yeah.
whether it's playing an instrument or reading something or doing yoga or meditation or just smoking some weed in the woods, going for a walk, whatever it is, just something to just make us get us connected, with that frequency that we're talking about, like touching upon that place that ayahuasca touches upon, that it's kind of like a frequency, a vibration that we can kind of tune into. And when we tune into it, it's almost like it's like a guide in a way to show us the way of how to live our life. And it might not always be pretty, but that's okay. It's like, it's just like touching into like this weird, like other side, like other than the material world and all this crazy paradigm that we're in. Like these, whatever the ritual is for yourself, allows you to just, or it allows me at least, to be able to um, understand my place. And then from understanding my place in this world, I act accordingly. So it's
Yeah.
just
Dude,
all lessons. It's like reaching upon that like other side, and that other side is kind of like continually teaching us lessons if you know how to tap in. It's pretty cool, man.
Absolutely, man. And like you said, it's not always easy. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely not. One of the hardest things things that I've had to go through is like accepting myself and like I could be in that lifestyle, but more recently I've done less of that. And what I've managed to be able to do is kind of sit there with myself in the darkness and the quietness and just kind of, instead of pass the time with these vices, just pass the time without doing anything. That's, in my opinion, one of the hardest things in the world to do. Like that's really what we're training. We should be training our brains to be able to do, because then we're able to cope with all of the stuff that we previously weren't able to cope with. And so like I like how you said, I want to talk about like how you said it's good to have like rituals for everyone. Like they can be doing an instrument or they can be doing meditation. So like that's amazing. I agree with that 100%. But I guess that's a little different than what we do, because what we do is it's not just a singular person doing it. So I don't know if it's,
well, I think
I don't know what the importance is to make the distinction, or if there is any at all, but I think there's something so powerful about having like an acceptance of other people there too. And I'm not saying that we need
I know what
strictly
you
that.
mean.
Like obviously we need to be doing like rituals on our own and empowering things on our own.
It's good when like everybody's on the
it,
same vibe, when you can all like kind of like this power in numbers in a way.
Definitely. I mean, one of the most valuable things for me is like when Rory was able to get off methadone and when he was in rehab, like that was so empowering for me, and it helped me, motivated me to do better. And whereas like if I don't have that, then it's kind of more on me. And I think, like you said, there are these individual rituals that we can do that can do that for us. It gives us an anchoring point to see, where we came from, and then direct ourselves more in the future with meditation, certain music, exercise. There are a lot of ways to do that, but I think it's absolutely essential that we do that, because without it, we're just racing through life. And I notice that, especially when I come home from Sunday ritual, I realize how fast I'm going through things, and it's almost like I'm just trying to get to the next moment instead of just accepting and enjoying the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a thing I need to be reminded of often, at least once a week, probably once or twice a day, because since I was a kid, we've kind of been indoctrinated with this like live fast kind of mentality of like get. And you talked about like tuning into something that isn't in this physical realm. Like I think about that constantly. I think about this physical realm as secondary, and the immaterial that all this came from. If we can tap into that, that is super valuable and it's super empowering. And it's not easy to understand that logically, but through an experience, it's an experiential thing. And these rituals can tap us into that, and these psychedelics can too.
Yeah, they're just tools, man. That's all it is. You have to use it in the correct manner. Like it's the same thing with a hammer. You can use it to build stuff, or you can use it to destroy stuff. It's how you use these tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Do you know much about Carl Jung?
A little bit. I mean, I've maybe read one book of his, but like not a lot. Why?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about him. I've learned a lot more about him this past year since getting sober and clean. But I think, we do follow some of his principles of like, we kind of see what we do, like at least in my head, I see it as like shadow work in a way. It's like we're going out there to confront our shadow, confront our unconscious, and there's no escaping it, because at this point, like we said, like we've been doing it for 10 months. The intention is so ingrained in what we do. It's just powerful, man. I don't really know.
Yeah, that's why mental health is one of the biggest pandemics right now, bigger than the coronavirus. It's because we don't know how to confront our own being and just how to be alone, like, because if it's a skill almost in a way to just be able to be by yourself, right?
Yeah, it takes practice.
But when you can just do that and just kind of just when you're comfortable in your own being, it's like it gives yourself power, kind of like freedom, because it's ironic that in this life, a lot of people, what's holding them back is themselves and not being able to confront the dark side. You know what I'm saying? because we all have to confront the dark side first in order to grow, because these things that are the shadow self is, it holds us back and we don't even know. It's like an unconscious barrier that we don't even know, but we have to, through these rituals and practices, whatever it is, these things allow us to destroy the barriers. And like I said, it's not always pretty when you destroy them, but like on the other side, it is, you know, it's like that process of dissolving conditioning in a way and then becoming anew. It's like a metamorphosis.
Yeah.
That's a
Destroy it and
psychedelic
rebuild
experience.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a psychedelic experience. And that's why I always liken it to like a childlike state too, because like a childlike, when you're a child, you don't have all of this indoctrination and cultural programming. And so you're kind of like, your brain's kind of like a blank slate. Like it sees things, I honestly believe it sees things more accurately, more raw, more like
in the moment, you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Without this thought of the future, thought of the past, or all this conditioning that's filtering your reality. And psychedelics put you in that state, and it can be incredibly valuable to see life again like that. But that's not to say that, you know, having a default mode network and these entrenched neural pathways isn't valuable as an adult. It's really valuable because, you know, kids, you ask like a 5-year-old to do something, they're going to get distracted, or they're not going to know what they're doing. We can like hone our brain really and specialize it for certain things, which is great.
Yeah.
There's yeah, man, I don't know. There's a couple of things I wanted to touch on real quick. Is you said confronting the dark side, and man, I love Star Wars. Like Star Wars is kind of like, it's like these people are living that to the fullest. Like they really have to confront some shit, and it's such a heroic story in a way. I mean, obviously when, you know, Anakin turns bad, it's villainous, but you know, the Jedi, you know, they're just such heroic, you know, subhuman species of people that are just like so strong. So I look up to that. I don't know. It made me think of that when you said confronting the dark side, but also I want to say like part of you is like, it's not always easy, but on the other side. So like once you can get through that and really, and I'm not great at it, I still have a long way to go, but that's what I love about this ritual. It's like, I'm doing it every Sunday. We've been doing it for 10 months. Imagine 20 years from now where I'll be. I mean, like
the journey is the destination, man.
Yeah.
And in 10 months, I've gotten over more than I've gotten over in my entire adult life ever, really. So I can only imagine, you know, but not to set expectations too high, but yeah, when you like you said, it's not always easy. It's really difficult, but once you get over to the other side, I don't know, it
empowers you every time you can like get through that and see the other side. It's like, okay, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it's okay. It is good to sit with these things, whether it's anxiety or fear, and not hide from them. Because for the first 23 years of my life, like I say I was addicted to disconnecting from life, to disconnecting from my feelings and from everything, and just escaping. And for the first time in my adult life over the past, you know, year or two, I've been able to not escape so much, to actually find the value in just being present. And to do that, first I had to allow myself to feel all of the fear of a lot of the fears. Oh, I just wasted 23 years of my life disconnecting from everything. I'll never make that up, or something like that. And then you feel a lot of guilt and shame for like wasting precious resource of time on earth. Like, why would I do that? But when you realize like it's all led me to here right now, then it's all valuable. Even if in that moment it seemed like I was just wasting time, maybe I was, but now it's allowed me to be more present and more resourceful with my time.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's a lesson, man.
Yeah.
That's kind of one thing you realize too, is once you go deep, is that these things that we think are going to harm us, that may be kind of certain skeletons in our closet or something, are really just lessons if you look at them in the correct manner.
Yeah.
But that's a hard viewpoint to get to at all times, to know that things in our life happen for us and not to us, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I struggled a lot because when I was 18, before I really got into opiates and heroin, my best friend committed suicide. And I remember hearing it. And as soon as I heard it, I don't know if I was probably just immediately in shock, but I didn't cry. I didn't get upset. I didn't really have any emotion at all. I remember
Like numb.
I was on, oh yeah, numb 100%. And, and I didn't really even allow myself to feel it for about 3 years, like literally like 3 years. I don't think I really felt it. And when I did feel I didn't really allow myself to really feel it fully. I'm, I mean, I'm not conscious of what I'm doing at this point either. It's just, I think I had a dream and I woke up crying. But the ayahuasca, what's nice about that is like I was conscious and I was able to process that a little bit. I was able to
Mm.
process that and kind of let go of it, probably more than I ever had before. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's still a lot of stuff that I have to process about it, but I think I'm much better off right now than I was before the experience because um, the thing about the psychedelic is once you take it, it's in your system. You have to go through it.
It's no going back.
There's no going back. And yeah, so like
Do you think there's also no going back in what it shows you as well? You think it's like a door you
100%,
open and then you can't
100%.
really, yeah.
Yeah. That
Uh,
was like my biggest fear after my first psilocybin experience. Is like, oh shit, I opened this door and now I'm going to deal with this for the rest of my life. And that door to me at first was just anxiety, existential anxiety, anxiety of impermanence, of death, all this stuff that I've been repressing.
but the beautiful thing about that is that if you're able to see it, have some perspective on it, and learn from it.
Yeah. And see the
Mm.
value in it, then it becomes the most empowering thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's hard to do.
Yeah, I think, and I want to add, like, I think, and I feel bad for the people that have experiences like this and then are considered crazy. And people think they're crazy because of their experience. First of all, I actually remembered I wanted to say this in the beginning, but I'll just say it right now is like, I think one of the most disempowering things you can do is tell a person they're crazy, either after a psychedelic experience or after really anything,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the most dismissive thing. It's like
Yeah.
you're telling this person they're crazy because you don't want to accept whatever they have to say and offer. And trust me, I call people crazy all the time because I just can't relate with them. It's just natural for humans to do that. But putting yourself in the person's that you told is crazy, put yourself in their shoes. It must be one of the most lonely places to be when somebody calls you crazy. And then
Yeah. I mean, if you have
over
a
time, you start to believe that, I mean, you
Oh,
could.
yeah.
psychedelic experience that you can't relate to anyone. And I know you can't always relate on everything, but if you just accept it, if you can say, I had this crazy experience and it was terrifying and traumatic and all this, and they just say, that's okay, it's okay, you're okay. That's like the best thing someone can do. It's not really about, and this is another thing when people want to hear about your psychedelic experience and they're like, okay, well, what does this mean? What is this? And they start to analyze it. And it's like, in a way, they're trying to like either poke holes in it or gain what you have from it. And it's like, that's not transferable. Like,
It's just
Yeah.
impossible to do that.
and that's the sad thing. Cause like you want to, I remember, after that first experience, I went to my parents and I wanted them so badly to feel what I had felt because it was so empowering. And ultimately I did have an effect on them, but it wasn't because of trying to share my experience of like what I went through in a psychedelic. It was because I just was open and said, I'm struggling right now. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. And I need you guys. And they said, we're here for you. And that's it. Just being open and vulnerable. That is what led to the deeper connection, not how I conveyed a psychedelic experience to them.
Mm. That's powerful,
And,
man.
and it's surprising to hear that because I know our mom and she can be kind of, really a worry wart or kind of neurotic at times. So I could imagine, like if I could imagine if I were to go up to her and say, oh, I had this transformative psychedelic experience, she would just go nuts. She would be like, are you kidding? She would lose her mind.
Yeah.
Like, why the heck did you do that? I could see a potential.
And that's why it was so nice. Cause I saw her and I said that, and I was expecting in a way like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. But what she said was, oh, that's good. I'm glad it helped. Don't do it again. And it was like a joke, but it was also like, she was accepting and she supported me, but she also wanted to show me that she worries, and that's fine to express too. It's
Yeah. Our parents, they both work in the medical field. My dad's a psychiatrist, my mom's a psychiatric nurse, and their views on psychedelics has not only changed from the studies and everything that they've heard, but like I'm proving we are proof. Our story is literally proof that it is possible. It's not saying that everybody should take psychedelics at all. It's not saying any of that, but it's showing that like the psychedelic does have extreme power if we're willing, if we're in the right setting, we're able to cultivate.
I mean, I don't think my parents would really believe it if they weren't seeing it firsthand, because
Yeah.
they lived with us before.
They may say they believe it, but they wouldn't. I don't think they're skeptical. I think everyone's skeptical of this stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it's good to have some healthy skepticism. But if you, especially when you hear the claims of people like stuff like,
well, yeah, I mean, they grew up. My mom's a psychiatric nurse and my dad's a psychiatrist. They grew up in the psych field, like working in psych wards, like having direct experience of people having psychedelic experiences that go, crazy.
Yeah, psychotic episodes and
right.
stuff. But,
so it's just wild.
I mean, I don't think other people can really believe it in the same way that anyone who lived with Rory before and then after could either. Because like me, my mom and dad, we lived with Rory when he was in the height of his addiction. Like that's like I've never, you can't really see someone more kind of destructive than someone in the height of a addiction like that, because there's just complete disregard for anything but the substance or the high, and that's like what happens over time. And so it's
we did do a video. We found some footage back when I was not on the heroin, but right after the ayahuasca, I was still on a very high dose of methadone, like I said. And Ryan took some video of me, and we did a reaction video to that on our YouTube channel. In case you want to just like, I mean, you'll instantly see the difference. Like there's 100%, you'll see it. You'll just be like, oh, wow. Like,
I'm going to bring it up right now.
Yeah, man.
Play it live.
Right.
My hair is crazy. I have a big beard.
When Rory was on the
wired,
like right after the ayahuasca, he was kind of, I don't know if he was manic, but he was energized. And I had the same thing happen to me after my psilocybin experience. So I was kind of like, okay, this is great energy. Keep using it, but you're gonna.
But I was pushing people away. I mean, what's
the video called? Oh, reacting to a video of myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I gotta share the screen.
It's pretty crazy seeing the difference.
Yeah, I just like to say we're reacting to a video of you reacting to yourself.
Yeah. Can't hear it so well. So yeah, I mean, you can.
I can see the difference, man. The energy. Wow.
Yeah, and if anybody like watches that video, just the way that I'm talking, my whole demeanor, it's just, it's this. It's
you can just see it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like everything that you were saying was like there was some truth behind it, but it also seemed like it was disingenuous. Like you hadn't done the work yet to get there. And I think in a way that was kind of motivating me to develop this like integration practice, because like I knew from my own experience where my depression got better after my psilocybin, my habits got better, and then I relapsed into bad patterns. I knew from that if I could have something I could return to consistently to keep building upon, it would help me. And I thought Rory could use the same thing, because at that point he was very energized and ready to go. But I knew as soon as he went down on his methadone and the emotions that he's been repressing started coming out, it's going to get harder and harder and harder. So I think ultimately that is why Rory relapsed after the ayahuasca, because he didn't have any, like the primary coping mechanism for emotion was to distract and to repress it. And now you're left with no mechanism because you don't have the heroin, you don't have the opiates. It's just like all this emotion and you don't know what to do with it. It just comes projecting out of you and pushing everyone away. And it was really, really hard to live with Rory for a couple months there when he was going through that transition phase. But I mean, stuck it out and got through it. Now we're better than ever. I mean, we're closer than ever. And I mean, that the saying, "It always darkest before the dawn." Uh, I think that quote's very true in a lot of ways
Hmm.
in our life.
Yeah, I think it's important for you guys to tell your story because it's something that the world needs to hear, man. And I mean, you're not alone. A lot of people have been helped with the substance, but the more the merrier. Like the word has to get out because these things are legitimate medicines that need to be incorporated into our society somehow, some way. Or,
Yeah.
maybe on
Yeah.
your own accord, like trying to explore your own rituals, but there has to be um some kind of way that it fits in to the paradigm somehow.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree. I think it might be important to note that like Ryan especially, but I think everyone in our family is pretty well versed in psychology to some extent. I guess everyone is on some extent, but our whole family studies psychology pretty much.
Hmm.
And my dad's a psychiatrist, mom's a psychiatric nurse. I know that's a little different, but my point here is that like
Have they ever done it? Any psychedelics?
Yeah.
they have
After seeing
after
how it
seeing our
affected
change.
us,
Yeah.
Oh,
they
wow. That's awesome.
yeah. Our dad actually was going to the ritual with us for a while.
Yeah.
For a long while, probably like 4 or 5
Which
months.
I never in my life imagined that I would be smoking pot with my dad in the woods at age 28, but there was something very beautiful about it.
Yeah, it was so nice having him there.
Yeah. But anyways, what I was saying is like we all have some knowledge of psychology and the idea that it is good to go into the fear. Now, I can imagine if none of us had this, any education at all in psychology, maybe we would know better. So, for the people that don't know, like I guess just like I'm just like offering like if you want to reach out to us to talk about anything, like well at the least we can do is just share our story uh personally with anyone that's watching. But we encourage one message is like we definitely encourage people to go into the depths of the discomfort and stuff. And I know that's the hardest thing to do. It's in my life it was even harder than getting off the drugs was being able to sit and feel and just cope without any substance or distraction. It's the hardest thing in the world, in my opinion.
It's the simplest, hardest thing to do.
It's
Yeah.
so simple because all you have to do is just sit there, but
And just feel.
your mind is telling
Mhm.
you you don't do that. You got to do. Your mind is the worst enemy when it comes to that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. That's crazy. It really is, man. But I think that's the paradigm we're moving toward. It's like kind of like we're at a point right now where people are exploring themselves a little bit more through
Yeah.
plant medicine, also through not using plant medicine.
I think the
Mhm.
paradigm's also shifting in like how do we treat these things like mental illness and addiction? Do I go to a doctor and have them give me pills, or do I explore on my own time with meditation what's causing this, or
mean, yeah.
with another method of like the autonomy is on me, my responsibility to heal myself, not
Right.
someone else is going to come in here and fix me.
That's
Mhm.
another thing we talk a lot about is the authoritative figure like the doctor or the
Even
healer
the guru or the healer.
or
Yeah.
the shaman.
I mean, they all are provide a necessary service, and they're very valuable.
Yeah.
But you got to use them and not have them use you in a way. And it's the same with the
Mhm.
substance. You got to use the substance, not have the substances use you. You have to be intentional about how you use them, why you use them, and what the effect that is that they're having. And the only way to really know is to be very present with yourself. There's so many variables about how all these things that you can get lost in, like cause and effect. Like, is this happening? Am I anxious because of this or this or this? You go crazy thinking about that. But if you're just present, you just say, okay, I am anxious. That's okay. Could be because of these things, but I can't determine. Let's just sit with it and see what happens. Often you find it resolves, and then you can go back to living in the moment. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like a intuitional science of exploring our being. Like it's like being able to sit with yourself and know if so when you sit with yourself and knowing whatever comes up, and being okay with whatever comes up, that's powerful, because from there, that's how we escape our own suffering. And that's how, essentially, that's what we all want to do, right? So if we can just sit with whatever is coming up in our head, right? It doesn't matter. Like, there's kind of, that means that, like, you're letting go of the reins in a way and saying it's okay to just be, when that's the hardest thing that, like, people are just, we're afraid to lose control, you know, but that's what we kind of have to do.
And people go to the utmost extremes to avoid doing that. The utmost, the absurd.
And the thing
extremes,
is, we think by exerting our control that we're having a better effect, but in the reality of it is we're usually creating the opposite of what we want by trying to control our direction, our reality, and like avoid certain things. We end up putting ourselves in those situations. So just like surrendering, being in the moment, trusting the universe, it's hard to do. And I think doing that is what develops that intuition. Like a great distinction is if you're able to distinguish between what is my intuition saying and what is my, animal instinct saying. The animal instinct will say, eat that food, whatever is sugar, do this, all this stuff that is physiologically driven. But the intuition will make the choices that are best for your soul or your path in life.
It's definitely of a higher frequency than our animal brain and animal physiology.
Yeah, it's like facilitating spiritual growth, like a kind of action that we put ourselves in, a kind of discipline or practice or way of life that allows us to grow the part of our being that isn't necessarily just this animal that's just trying to get more and more and more and just, all me. It becomes less about me and more about, like you said before, like community. You realize the importance of that, because that is an extension of yourself, and it all relates into that. It's just love, man. It's just touching on that love frequency,
It's almost like intuition versus instinct or something, because our intuition, you can rise above your instinct. You can rise above doing this or doing whatever feels comfortable. And that's ultimately like, people talk about enlightenment, and like, I don't really know if I would really use that term that often, but I think part of enlightenment is really just, just being in touch with yourself on that level, like being okay and coping in some way,
I
don't know.
That's what it is, man. Is okay. So if we could, I guess, definition, you can't really define it, but putting it simply, I guess, in a way, enlightenment is first recognizing that there is more than meets the eye in the human being. We're more than just animals. That's there's other conceptual models and steps that they have, but really putting it simply is knowing that I'm more than just this reactionary vehicle that's here just kind of reacting to my sensual pleasures, right? And once you recognize that, then you're like, okay, then there's got to be some kind of purpose, right? There's got to be something, a certain way to act, like the Tao, or some kind of way to act accordingly to that part of me that isn't necessarily just driven by animal instincts. And once you tap into that, there's no going back. Like, that's like a superpower, man. You can heal yourself. You are the guru. You are like, it's something that goes beyond words, bro. But that's kind of what enlightenment is. If you want to like sum it up really quick, like if you like enlightenment 101, really simply, it's just recognizing that other part of yourself that is kind of not of the ego. It's the connection, touching upon that connection. That connection is answers. That connection teaches
I think
lessons. Go ahead.
And I think on some level, I think everyone knows that on some level, or feels that on some level. Like even before, when I was using drugs, I mean, like I still knew there was more to me than just this habitual lifestyle. Like I knew my potential. I know everyone knows their potential is greater than they're allowing themselves to really feel and accept.
That's
like
about being able to tap in, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That, because the first step is knowing, becoming aware, and the second step is being able to tap into that force in a way, and then from there you can that's when you become the magician. You know, you can create your own life and do things that you couldn't even imagine before you were able to tap into this. You know, it sounds
Mm.
so crazy, like woo woo, but it's like there's no other way to explain it, right? Then like it is almost like something else that you tap in, but essentially it's just kind of knowing what you are and who you are and acting accordingly to that, you know, and just that just feels good. And then from feeling good, you just live a good life and just good vibes snowball, you know. It's kind of hard to explain, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
it
it's
seems
hard.
kind of crazy, but if you look at like history of humans, that those lessons are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. No matter where you look,
Yeah,
the lessons of,
Yeah.
be trust your intuition, be in the moment, be yourself. Like one of the most important books I ever read was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and he says in it that it's not, like we should not ask life what is our purpose or what's the purpose of life. We should answer as if life is asking us. Life asks us what is your purpose, and we
Yep.
have to answer in how we live.
We create it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean, that's the thing too, right? Isn't so we create the purpose, but I think a lot of people don't know that the power is in us to create that purpose. When we're all creators, that's what a human being is, and you can create something that isn't according to this force that we're talking about. I think if you can create things that are evil in a way, like, you know, I guess going to the extreme, like Hitler, he created
yeah,
something that was according to like some just evil essentially, right? But I think being able to create according to this just good energy, good vibes, like it's that's the way. Like there's no other way than tapping
yeah,
in and spreading the good word essentially. Like what you guys are doing like is awesome. Like that is tapping in and just that's the paradigm that we're moving toward, you know? Like it's really a wonderful time to be alive. Like it
it
seems
I
really
to be
agree.
is.
just the light is
I used,
being dawned upon humanity of like our
yeah,
previous mistakes, and now we're kind of like learning, going through this very rough patch, um but we're learning our lessons and kind of individually learning our lessons, and then from there creating this global community that is growing. Hopefully, that's what I mean. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic, but just from talking to you guys and talking to other people as well that have had these amazing experience from plant medicines and just general self improvement, um, shows me that like, yo, we're moving toward a society that humans have should have been for a very, very long time. And we just, for some reason, lost our way. And it's interesting to
Yeah,
me that these plant medicines come up at this point in time. Like it just seems like the earth is speaking to us, you know, in a way. I know it sounds like hippie talk, but it's like, it seems like the earth is literally sending us messages with these plant medicines that like you don't have to really do much. You just eat them. Like mushrooms, especially, you just literally eat them and you go through these crazy experiences. And the same thing with marijuana, like in ayahuasca. All of these things seem like they're trying to tell us to wake up, right? Like it's like the earth saying that
100.
you have to change yourself, or else like we're gonna kill ourselves, right? And that
Yeah,
yeah,
that all relates to the bigger picture. But like when you zoom it down, these plant medicines allow us to change ourselves through uh, our faults in our ways, and then from there slowly we build, become human beings, and that um, contributes to the collective, and we are this super being. You know, it seems like we're becoming this one being, recognizing that we are all the same thing, like all connected, all together, slowly but surely. You know, it's a slow process, but I think this is just the dawn of it. And
yeah,
stories
yeah,
like you guys are just, it's just like it's proof that it's working, you know. It's awesome.
yeah,
yeah. I want to put it this way. You said it's really hard to explain, like what enlightenment is or what. Uh, I don't really. I'm not so good at using the term enlightenment because I don't know exactly what other people mean by it. But like, yeah, it's really hard to explain these phenomenal experiences that we go through, like an ayahuasca experience. So what can we do then? Well, we can live as though those experiences are real within us, which they are. I mean, that experience is real within me. So I can only live my best way and try to show people through my behavior and through the way that I live. And if we all do that, truly do that, because that's extremely hard to do. And if I didn't have Ryan and the people around me supporting me, I wouldn't be able to. There's no way I could if I couldn't any of my other adult life. So how could I expect to now? It's really about connection and being with supportive people that will accept you no matter what, and then using that to be your best self and behave, live forthright in the world, really, and just be the best you can be.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah, and I mean that's really our mission with everything that we want to do is facilitate connection, increase more avenues for people to connect on a deep level. I'm not talking about like superficial connection, but like people you can go to and confess, oh, I'm having a really hard time. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling all this. And you can be accepted and supported right there. And you have a community around that you can be with. And our ancient ancestors, they lived like this, tribes of 50 people where everyone knew each other intimately. And every day you lived and died based on the connection you had with the people around you, the food and the hunting and all of this. And it's like we've been with how modern society is developed, we don't have that risk anymore. Like we can live a completely isolated life, never leave our home, and we could survive. Like in the ancient times, if you were ostracized, if you were on your own, you're dead. And
yeah. And we're not saying that we want people to be tribal at all. We just want to bridge the gap between, the connectedness that tribes had and modern day society.
Yeah, because it's definitely possible to be more connected in modern society. There's no reason why we can't.
One thing that really made me think, back before I did the ayahuasca, Ryan was talking to me. He was like, I don't even know our neighbors. He doesn't know his neighbors. He's like, and also, on some level, I don't want to, but on a deeper level, I do want to, and I wish I did. But there's in this day and age, it's like it's weird to kind of
Yeah, it's almost like you're an outsider if you try and get to know the people that live around you, because it's like
Yeah.
people want to stay reserved in their own space.
It is strange, man. Like I live in an apartment and there's people below me and I don't know who they are, but like they're like 6 feet below me right now and I live with them. And I say hi sometimes, but like it is weird to like live with people. And that's our society now. We're just in these very tight knit communities that don't talk to each other. Essentially, that's a metropolis. It's just a group of people that it just seems like we are just disconnected in a way. It's so weird, man. We're living in a time where we're connected with each other, like at the pinnacle of connection for human history, right? Like I can talk to somebody in Japan at the blink of an eye, like just instantly. But we're missing like an aspect of our connection in some way. It's like we have the ability to connect, but we're not, like we're not actually being genuine. Like there's something missing.
absolutely.
And that's genuine, like, that's real being there for somebody. I think like actually like listening to somebody talk. I think the whole thing about this talk is acceptance and how important acceptance is. And I think it is because if somebody else, when you feel like you're not accepted by anybody, like you just like the world is against you, and then you don't feel worthy of love, essentially, of being, that's a huge aspect of love. And then when you see that somebody else can accept you, then you maybe say to yourself, well, if this person can love me and accept me, then why can't I accept myself? So I think it's important. I think it's cool what you guys are doing, like with
I mean,
integration between like this group, man, because it's important to have that.
yeah. And I mean, that's really the story of what we've been through the past, and it's only been like a little over a year. It's so friggin' crazy to think, but yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's like when you said you feel like you're not capable of being loved. That's the epitome of what an addict goes through. Addicts, in my experience, every addict I ever met didn't know how to love themselves and didn't think that they were
deserving
of any love.
But we all are.
100%.
It sounds corny, but it's the truth.
Yeah,
it's hard.
I think it sounds corny because it's so. Yeah, it's just like so. People just don't want to accept it, but it's so true.
It's hard to believe, like if you're in that space of an addict, you don't see another reality besides, oh, I'm not loved and I don't deserve love. There's no other opportunity, and that's what a psychedelic experience can give you. Is like, oh, there are other options. Like it's not just life. Life is never just one path. that's just not how life is. It's infinite, and we can help direct it in some ways. And
Exactly.
ultimately, the best way to direct it is to accept and have faith in the universe and just go with the flow, which
Mm-hmm.
is hard.
It's hard. Yeah. Right. You have
Yeah.
to find the flow first.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful, man. Yeah. Like psychedelics or just whatever the practice is show us like a different way to live in a way, or just show us other possibilities, or just like Terrence McKenna says, what they do is they break down boundaries. They're boundary dissolving. And it might not necessarily be a magic mushroom, that is, but like whatever you have to do, we have to dissolve our boundaries in order to grow. And that's what life is all about, man. It
Yeah,
really is.
growth is the most fulfilling thing in life,
Yeah.
and having alternate perspectives on your life is the most valuable thing to grow, in order to grow, because then you can make a decision,
Well, yeah, and I
stepping
mean
outside yourself, looking at your life, and then you can make a new decision that alters that.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's weird because I just want to say like that's kind of what addicts are about, are using the drugs for an altered perspective. That's the power of altered perspective, is
Mm-hmm.
people will go to any length to get it. It's just how can we support these people getting those alternate perspectives in a healthy, intentional
Well,
way?
use it in a way
Yeah.
that is conducive to bettering the sober life, as opposed to just disregarding the sober aspect of yourself completely.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I'll tell you, when I was, there was a point where I was doing so much drugs, and whenever I went without the drugs, I thought something's wrong with me. The feeling I'm feeling that's in my body right now, I will never feel normal again. And I truly believed it. I mean, that's what people feel when they're going through withdrawal. They never think they're going to get normal again. That's why they never get clean, or they get clean and it's just an agonizing withdrawal, because you think you fucked up and you think never anything's going to be normal. It's it's powerful, and it's bad. It's not good. I
Yeah.
feel for people that have to go through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like you just get yourself in like a dark hole, but like you have to climb out of it, right?
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, and it
And
takes a long time.
in getting out of the hole, you have to first explore a different viewpoint, right? Like an
Yeah.
alternative
Mhm.
way to see your life, when that's
Yeah.
not always easy to do.
Yeah. I mean, you have to believe that there is an alternate path.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in addiction, or any, habitual cycle of, and where you feel stuck, I've been in it with depression and other things. It feels like there's just no escaping it. It's just, this is your life, and you can't change it. But having a new perspective, and the psychedelics are really good at this, because they don't only give you a new perspective. There's this empowerment behind it of like, this perspective, this alternate reality is not a fantasy. Like, there's potential to create this in our life. You can have these experiences more. You can feel more love. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that you are meant to feel. It's just, how are you going to live your life in order to be more aligned with that? And it's not only the feeling of the love, but it's all the feelings. Allowing
Yeah.
yourself to feel more allows you to be present, and get the love that you deserve, that everyone deserves.
Mm-hmm. Mm. That's good, man. Oh, I don't even know where to go from here.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. It's
You
been
guys,
great.
do you guys have anything you'd like to get off your chest? Like any finishing statements? I think we can probably wrap this thing up.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I always say, because this is my best advice, is like, uh, me and Rory, when we went out in the woods to start this ritual, we didn't expect much, and we're not special. We just decided, all right, let's just try this. And we committed to it. After a couple of weeks, didn't know what was happening. Now it's 9, 10 months later, and the value we've gotten from it is more than we could have ever imagined in any dream. So like,
Mhm.
I encourage people to just explore these things. It's not like you have to go out in the woods every week and do this, but just like, maybe you have an intuitive feeling of, oh, I want to smoke this cannabis intentionally with my friends in this spot, and let's just see what happens. No
Mm-hmm.
expectations, I think, or whatever it is. But like,
Yeah, we're not even saying that. We're not even advocating that anybody use cannabis, but if
yeah,
you're going to, try doing it very intentionally,
Yeah.
and just be be open to whatever comes up and try to accept it and then see where that goes.
Yeah, and maybe combine it with other things like intentional breathing and meditating, or yoga, or eye gazing, or sitting around a fire in nature.
I do want to say eye gazing has been one of the most profoundly it is consciousness shifting. It really is. It gives me perspective more than I don't know. It's just extremely powerful in my life, and I'm so glad that we have developed it organically over. Like when we first started this, we didn't even do it for the first almost 5 months, and then we just
it just
naturally
popped up somehow, and we went with it. And like, it's not just alternate perspectives. It's all these tools, whether it's substance, the way we think, the way we breathe, all these different things that can be valuable.
Yeah, and it's all about intention. If your intention is pure behind it, then it'll work, whatever it is, but it'll work. Everybody is different, but as long as your intention is pure on whatever your ritual is, whatever your practice is, and you have to like, it's different. Like it's an unexplainable feeling of that is that pureness behind your intention. Like you just know, right? You just know there's something that you may need or something you need to do, right? But it's all about like if you go into it with the right headspace, you know, like cannabis is an extremely powerful drug. Not even drug, it's a sacrament for intentional change. When you know, you don't always have to watch a movie and smoke a blunt or something. Like if you I think what you guys are doing is how cannabis is supposed to be used. Not saying I follow those rules, I smoke weed just about every day, but it is powerful if you do it in that way, for real. Because it's just like all of these other plant medicines, man. If you just they're tools for change.
Absolutely. We've noticed all sorts of different plants, ones that are very not even psychoactive, just the flavor of some type of tea. I mean that in itself does have the power to change consciousness and perspective. But
it's the relationship we develop with these things that really have the effect. It's not so much the substance. Of everything that goes into it.
That's another. I do agree, and I just want to say, like intention is at the foundation of everything. I mean, intention, whether we are aware of our intention or not, intention is behind almost everything.
That's karma, man. That's the essence of karma.
Yeah, man.
With or without psychedelics or rituals, like if it's all about if your intentions are pure in this life.
Yeah.
All right.
Massive.
I think that's a good line to wrap it up at, man.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's been great talking.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on here. This was awesome. Keep spreading the good vibes. Keep doing your thing. It's important for everybody, even if like anybody listening has a story to tell about how they changed through plant medicines or whatever their ritual or practice is. I think it's important for everybody right now to tell their story because it's so important. Because even if it's just one person that watches your video, listens to the podcast, maybe it might spark something, right? It could change their life. It could save their life, right? Like,
absolutely.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Everyone should share their story.
Yeah. I think if anybody has anything to talk about or share that they want to, whether with Gary or with us, like just do it. I will always listen. Seems like Gary will too, but I will always sit there and listen to you because I've been through some stuff where I just needed somebody to listen to me. So that's like one service that, if anything, I can offer is like I will listen to you because I want you to be able to express whatever it is you want to express. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sometimes we just need somebody to be there for us, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, hey, it was really good talking with you. And I was just gonna say, like, maybe in the maybe near future at some point, you know, we can do this again, see where we're at, just reconvene after a few months or so.
100%, man. You guys are cool. I like talking to you guys.
Talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so keep fighting the good fight, keep doing your thing, and thanks for listening to anybody that listened. But other than that, peace out, guys.
All right. Peace.